Every human being carries within them a hidden force that quietly shapes their life every single day. This force is not found in physical strength, wealth, education, or social status. It is found deep inside the mind, beyond conscious awareness. It is called the subconscious mind. Most people spend their entire lives trying to change their circumstances without realizing that the real source of those circumstances often begins inside their own thinking. They work harder, struggle longer, and search endlessly for external solutions while ignoring the most powerful tool they already possess. Their subconscious mind silently influences their beliefs, decisions, emotions, habits, actions, and ultimately their destiny. The subconscious mind never sleeps. It works 24 hours a day, recording experiences, storing memories, creating emotional responses, and guiding behavior, whether a person realizes it or not. The subconscious mind is always listening, always learning, and always following instructions. The problem is that many people unknowingly give their subconscious mind negative instructions throughout their lives. They repeatedly think thoughts of fear, doubt, worry, limitation, failure, and insecurity. Over time, these thoughts become deeply rooted beliefs. The subconscious mind accepts them as truth and begins creating behaviors that match those beliefs. A person who constantly tells themselves they are unlucky often finds more evidence of bad luck. A person who repeatedly thinks they are not capable of success begins acting in ways that prevent success. A person who expects rejection unconsciously behaves in ways that attract rejection. The subconscious mind does not question whether instructions are helpful or harmful. It simply follows what it is repeatedly given. This explains why some people remain trapped in the same cycles for years, despite wanting change. They consciously desire success, happiness, confidence, and abundance, but their subconscious programming continues pulling them toward familiar patterns. The conscious mind presses the accelerator, while the subconscious mind presses the brake. Understanding this truth changes everything. The moment a person learns how the subconscious mind operates, they gain access to an entirely new level of personal power. They begin to realize that lasting transformation does not start with circumstances. It starts with internal programming. When the subconscious mind changes, behavior changes. When behavior changes, results change. When results change, life changes. Commanding the subconscious mind does not mean forcing it through willpower. It means learning its language, understanding its rules, and consistently feeding it the instructions that support desired outcomes. The subconscious mind responds to repetition, emotion, imagination, belief, and action. It learns through patterns and accepts what is consistently impressed upon it. Throughout history, many successful individuals have unknowingly or intentionally used these principles. Athletes visualize victory before competition. Entrepreneurs mentally rehearse success before launching businesses. Performers imagine flawless performances before stepping onto a stage. Leaders develop powerful internal beliefs before inspiring others. Their subconscious minds are trained to support their goals rather than sabotage them. Good news is that this ability is not reserved for a select few. Every person possesses the same mental machinery. Every person can learn to direct their subconscious mind toward confidence, growth, achievement, peace, and fulfillment. However, this process requires patience, commitment, and understanding. Years of negative programming cannot always be erased overnight. Just as a farmer plants seeds and waits for growth, mental transformation requires consistent cultivation. Every empowering thought, every positive visualization, every deliberate action becomes a new seed planted within the subconscious mind. As these seeds grow, they gradually replace limiting beliefs with empowering ones. Fear begins giving way to confidence. Doubt starts transforming into certainty. Excuses are replaced with action. Old habits lose their grip, and new habits begin taking root. The individual starts becoming the person they were always capable of becoming. This book explores the practical principles behind commanding the subconscious mind, and making it work in harmony with conscious goals. It is not based on fantasy or magical thinking. It is grounded in reality, human psychology, personal development, and the observable patterns that influence behavior and achievement. The purpose of this journey is not merely to think positively. The purpose is to understand how the mind truly works and learn how to intentionally direct its immense power toward meaningful outcomes. Your subconscious mind is already obeying instructions every day. The question is whether those instructions are leading you toward the life you want or away from. At the moment you learn to consciously guide this hidden force, you begin taking control of your future in a way most people never do that. Journey begins now. CHAPTR 1. Understanding the hidden power of your subconscious mind. Before a person can command the subconscious mind, they must first understand what it is and how it operates. Many people have heard the term subconscious mind, but few truly appreciate its influence on daily life. They think their conscious decisions determine everything they experience. Yet much of human behavior originates from a deeper level of the mind that works quietly beneath awareness. Subconscious mind can be compared to an invisible operating system. It manages countless processes without requiring conscious attention. While the conscious mind analyzes, chooses, and reasons, the subconscious mind stores beliefs, emotions, habits, memories, and automatic responses. Together, they create the foundation of human behavior. Imagine waking up in the morning. You do not consciously instruct your heart to beat. You do not consciously command your lungs to breathe. You do not consciously remember every movement required to walk across a room. These actions occur automatically because they have become part of subconscious programming. The same principle applies to emotional and behavioral patterns. A person who instantly feels nervous before speaking in public is often responding to subconscious programming. A person who naturally feels confident entering a room is also responding to subconscious programming. These reactions appear automatic because they originate below conscious awareness. Many people assume that life happens to them. They believe success, failure, confidence, fear, happiness, and frustration are primarily determined by external circumstances. While circumstances certainly matter, they do not tell the entire story. Two people can experience similar situations and respond in completely different ways because their subconscious programming differs. One individual may see a challenge and feel excitement. Another may see the same challenge and feel fear. One may view failure as a lesson. Another may view failure as proof of inadequacy. The event remains the same, but the subconscious interpretation changes the response. From early childhood, the subconscious mind begins absorbing information from the environment, parents, teachers, friends, experiences, culture, and repeated observations all contribute to the development of subconscious beliefs. During childhood, the conscious analytical mind is still developing. Therefore, many ideas enter the subconscious without being questioned. If a child repeatedly hears encouraging messages, they may develop beliefs of capability and worthiness. If a child repeatedly encounters criticism, fear, or limitation, they may develop beliefs that restrict future growth. These beliefs often continue influencing behavior long after the original experiences have been forgotten. This is why many adults struggle with problems they cannot fully explain. They may desire success, yet fear opportunities. They may desire healthy relationships, yet repeatedly choose unhealthy patterns. They may desire financial freedom, yet unconsciously sabotage progress. Their conscious goals conflict with subconscious programming. The subconscious mind does not care whether a belief is accurate. It simply accepts what has been repeatedly reinforced. Once accepted, it begins organizing thoughts, emotions, and actions around that belief. A person who subconsciously believes they are capable often notices opportunities that others ignore. They take action more confidently. They recover more quickly from setbacks. They persist longer when challenges arise. Their behavior supports their belief. A person who subconsciously believes they are incapable, often notices obstacles instead of opportunities. They hesitate when action is required. They interpret setbacks as proof of weakness. They quit more easily. Their behavior also supports their belief neither individual consciously decides to create these outcomes. Most of the process occurs automatically through subconscious influence. One of the most important truths about the subconscious mind is that it cannot easily distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and actual experiences. This principle explains why mental rehearsal can be so powerful. Athletes often visualize successful performances before competitions. Musicians mentally practice performances before stepping onto a stage. Speakers imagine confident presentations before addressing audiences. Vivid mental images are repeated with emotion. The subconscious mind begins treating them as familiar experiences. Over time, this familiarity influences confidence, behavior, and performance. Unfortunately, the same mechanism can work against people. Many individuals repeatedly imagine failure, embarrassment, rejection, disappointment, and loss. They mentally rehearse negative outcomes without realizing it. Their subconscious mind absorbs these images and prepares the body accordingly. This creates a cycle where fear generates negative expectations, and negative expectations influence behavior, which then produces disappointing results. The results reinforce the original fear, and the cycle continues. Understanding this process reveals why controlling mental focus is so important. The subconscious mind acts like fertile soil. Whatever is planted consistently tends to grow. Positive seeds produce positive growth. Negative seeds produce negative growth. The soil itself does not judge the seed. It simply nurtures whatever it receives. Many people attempt to change their lives solely through willpower. They make promises to themselves and try to force new behaviors through conscious effort. While willpower has value, it often produces temporary results because the underlying subconscious programming remains unchanged. Imagine trying to steer a powerful ship with a small rudder. The conscious mind represents the rudder while the subconscious mind represents the massive vessel beneath the surface. If both move in the same direction, progress becomes smooth and powerful. If they move in opposite directions, frustration develops. This explains why people sometimes know exactly what they should do, yet fail to do it consistently. They know they should exercise, save money, develop skills, or pursue goals. Yet something inside resists action. That resistance often originates from subconscious beliefs, habits, and emotional associations commanding. The subconscious mind begins with awareness. A person must become willing to examine their internal programming. They must learn to observe recurring thoughts, emotional patterns, and automatic behaviors without judgment. Self-awareness reveals hidden patterns that were previously operating in the background. Once these patterns become visible, they can be changed. The subconscious mind is not an enemy. It is not trying to create failure or suffering. Its purpose is protection and efficiency. It constantly seeks familiar patterns because familiarity feels safe. Even negative habits may continue because they are familiar, not because they are beneficial. For example, someone who has spent years doubting themselves may feel uncomfortable when confidence begins to emerge. Success may feel unfamiliar and therefore threatening to the subconscious mind. The individual may unconsciously return to old behaviors simply because those behaviors feel normal. This is why transformation often feels uncomfortable at first. Growth requires replacing familiar patterns with new ones. The subconscious mind needs time and repetition to accept these changes as safe and natural. Patience becomes essential during this process. Many people give up too soon because they expect immediate results. They become discouraged when old thoughts or habits reappear. However, lasting change occurs through consistent reinforcement rather than sudden perfection. Every repeated thought strengthens a mental pathway. Every repeated action strengthens a behavioral pattern. Every repeated emotion reinforces an internal state. Over time, these repetitions shape subconscious programming. The encouraging truth is that the subconscious mind remains adaptable throughout life. No matter how long a belief has existed, it can be replaced. No matter how deeply a habit is rooted, it can be transformed. The brain and mind possess remarkable capacity for change when given proper direction. A first step toward commanding the subconscious mind is accepting responsibility for internal programming. This does not mean blaming oneself for every difficulty. It means recognizing the power to influence future outcomes. When people stop viewing themselves as victims of circumstance, they begin discovering possibilities that were previously hidden. They realize that while they cannot control every event, they can influence how they think, respond, and grow. This shift creates a foundation for personal transformation. Consider the story of a man named Ahmed, who spent most of his adult life believing he was incapable of success. During childhood, he frequently heard that he was average and unlikely to achieve anything significant. These messages became deeply embedded in his subconscious mind. As an adult, Ahmed opportunities because he assumed failure was inevitable. Whenever promotions became available, he convinced himself that others were more qualified. Whenever new possibilities appeared, he focused on reasons they would not work. One day, he began studying personal development and learning about subconscious programming for the first time. He realized that many of his limitations were not objective facts, but inherited beliefs. He started observing his thoughts. Each day he noticed how often he predicted failure before even attempting something new. He began replacing those predictions with more empowering possibilities. He visualized successful outcomes. He took small actions despite fear. He celebrated progress instead of focusing exclusively on mistakes. The transformation was gradual rather than dramatic, yet over time his confidence increased. His willingness to take action improved. New opportunities emerged because his behavior changed. Several years later, he achieved goals that once seemed impossible. The most important change was not external success. The most important change was the internal belief that success was possible. Ahmed did not magically alter reality overnight. He changed the subconscious programming that had been directing his behavior for years. Once that programming shifted, his actions shifted, and his results followed. His story illustrates a powerful truth. The subconscious mind often determines whether a person remains trapped by limitations or moves toward growth. Understanding this hidden force is the beginning of mastery. A person cannot command what they do not understand. They cannot direct what they refuse to examine. They cannot transform what they continue ignoring. The journey toward commanding the subconscious mind begins with awareness, knowledge, and responsibility. Once these foundations are established, the door opens to deeper levels of influence and personal power. The subconscious mind has been listening throughout your entire life. The question now is what instructions you will choose to give it from this day forward. CHAPTER 2. The language of the subconscious mind. Many people spend years trying to change their lives without realizing that they are speaking the wrong language to their subconscious mind. They make goals, create plans, and repeat wishes, yet experience little lasting change. The reason is simple. The subconscious mind does not communicate in the same way as the conscious mind. The conscious mind relies heavily on logic, analysis, reasoning, and deliberate thought. It evaluates information, compares possibilities, and makes decisions based on facts and evidence. The subconscious mind operates differently. It responds primarily to repetition, emotion, imagination, belief, and experience. To command the subconscious mind effectively, a person must learn its language. Just as communication becomes difficult when two people speak different languages, communication becomes ineffective. When the conscious mind attempts to influence the subconscious using methods that the subconscious does not naturally understand, imagine trying to plant a seed by placing it on top of a stone. Nothing grows because the environment is not suitable. In the same way, many people place positive ideas on the surface of their minds without allowing those ideas to penetrate deeply enough to influence subconscious programming. The subconscious mind learns through repeated exposure. When an idea is encountered again and again, it gradually becomes familiar. Familiarity eventually becomes acceptance. Acceptance eventually becomes belief. This process occurs whether the information is positive or negative. A person who repeatedly says they are unlucky may initially be expressing frustration, yet after months or years of repetition, the subconscious mind begins accepting that statement as truth. Once accepted, it influences perception, behavior, and expectations. The same principle applies to positive statements. Repeated constructive beliefs gradually gain strength and influence when reinforced consistently over time. Repetition acts as a form of mental training. Every thought repeated frequently becomes easier to think again. Neural pathways strengthen through use. Just as muscles grow stronger through exercise, mental patterns grow stronger through repetition. This explains why habits become automatic. A person does not consciously think through every step involved in driving a car. After years of practice, the behavior becomes subconscious because repetition has created strong mental pathways. Same mechanism shapes confidence, self-image, discipline, resilience, and countless other aspects of personality. Emotion is another language of the subconscious mind. Ideas connected to strong emotions tend to leave deeper impressions than ideas experienced without emotion. Human beings remember emotionally significant events more vividly because emotional intensity signals importance to the mind. Think about memories that remain clear after many years. They are often connected to excitement, joy, fear, sadness, pride, embarrassment, or love. The emotional energy associated with those experiences strengthens their impact on subconscious memory. This principle can either help or hinder personal growth. Negative emotional experiences sometimes create limiting beliefs that remain active for decades. A single humiliating experience may convince someone they are not good enough. A painful rejection may create fear of future relationships. A business failure may generate lasting doubts about success. Subconscious mind records both the event and the emotional meaning attached to it. Fortunately, positive emotional experiences can also create powerful, empowering beliefs. Confidence, courage, determination, and optimism become stronger when reinforced with emotional intensity. This is why merely repeating positive statements without feeling often produces limited results. Words alone are not enough. The subconscious mind responds more strongly when thoughts are accompanied by genuine emotional involvement. Visualization represents another essential component of subconscious communication. The mind naturally thinks in pictures long before people learn language. They respond to images, experiences, and sensory impressions. When individuals vividly imagine an outcome, they activate many of the same mental processes involved in actual experience. This is why visualization has been used successfully by athletes, performers, entrepreneurs, and leaders throughout history. A person who regularly imagines themselves speaking confidently begins creating familiarity with that experience. The subconscious mind gradually becomes more comfortable with the idea. Confidence feels less foreign because it has been mentally rehearsed. Visualization is not magical wish fulfillment. It is mental preparation. The subconscious mind becomes accustomed to a desired outcome, making supportive behavior more likely in real situations. And fortunately, many people use visualization unconsciously in destructive ways. They repeatedly imagine failure, embarrassment, criticism, and disappointment. They create detailed mental movies of everything going wrong without realizing it. They are training their subconscious mind to expect negative outcomes. The subconscious mind does not evaluate whether an image is helpful. It simply responds to what is repeatedly presented. Belief is another powerful language of the subconscious mind. Human behavior is heavily influenced by what people believe about themselves, and the world around them. Beliefs act like invisible filters. They influence what individuals notice, what opportunities they pursue, how they interpret events, and how they respond to challenges. A person who believes success is possible approaches life differently from someone who believes success is unattainable. The difference is not merely external circumstances. It is the internal framework through which experiences are interpreted. Many beliefs operate below conscious awareness. People often assume their beliefs represent objective reality when they actually reflect subconscious programming accumulated over time. Changing beliefs requires more than intellectual understanding. A person may logically recognize that a limiting belief is inaccurate, yet continue behaving according to it, because the subconscious mind has not fully accepted a new alternative. This is why transformation requires repetition, emotion visualization, and consistent action working together. Action itself communicates powerfully with the subconscious mind. Every action sends a message about identity and capability. When people repeatedly act with courage, they reinforce the belief that they are courageous. When they repeatedly act with discipline, they reinforce the belief that they are disciplined. When they repeatedly avoid challenges, they reinforce beliefs associated with fear and limitation. Subconscious mind pays attention not only to thoughts, but also to behavior. This creates an important lesson. Many individuals wait until they feel confident before taking action. Yet confidence often develops because of action rather than before. Each positive action provides evidence that supports new subconscious programming. Language of the subconscious mind can be observed in everyday life. A person who constantly focuses on problems tends to notice more problems. A person who consistently focuses on possibilities tends to notice more opportunities. The subconscious mind directs attention toward information that aligns with existing programming. This selective attention explains why different people often perceive the same situation differently. Their subconscious beliefs influence what they notice and how they interpret it. Learning the language of the subconscious mind requires becoming more intentional about mental input. Every book, conversation, experience, thought, and emotional reaction contributes to internal programming. Many people carefully monitor what they eat, but pay little attention to what they allow into their minds. They expose themselves to endless negativity, criticism, fear, and discouragement, then wonder why motivation and confidence remain weak. The subconscious mind absorbs repeated input regardless of its source. This does not mean ignoring reality or pretending problems do not exist. It means choosing mental influences wisely and ensuring that empowering information receives consistent attention. As individuals become more aware of subconscious communication, they begin recognizing how frequently they are programming themselves throughout the day. Every internal statement matters. When someone repeatedly says, "I cannot do this," the subconscious mind hears an instruction. When someone repeatedly says, "I always fail," the subconscious mind hears an instruction. When someone repeatedly says, "I am improving every day," the subconscious mind hears an instruction. The subconscious mind is constantly listening. One of the greatest mistakes people make is assuming that occasional positive thinking can overcome years of negative conditioning. Lasting change requires consistency. Just as a single workout does not create physical fitness, a single positive affirmation does not instantly transform subconscious beliefs. Mental conditioning follows the same principle as physical conditioning. Repeated effort produces lasting results. Patience, therefore, becomes essential. Many individuals become discouraged because change appears slower than expected. Yet every positive repetition, every constructive visualization, every courageous action contributes to the development of new subconscious patterns. Progress often occurs beneath the surface before becoming visible externally. Consider the story of a woman named Sarah who struggled with public speaking throughout her life. She believed she was incapable of speaking confidently in front of groups. Whenever presentations approached, she imagined embarrassment, mistakes, and criticism. Her body responded with anxiety and tension. Eventually, she decided to change this pattern. Instead of mentally rehearsing failure, she began visualizing successful presentations. Every evening, she imagined standing confidently, speaking clearly, and receiving positive responses. At first, the images felt unrealistic because her subconscious mind was accustomed to fear, yet she continued practicing consistently. She also began repeating empowering statements and taking small opportunities to speak in front of others. Gradually, her anxiety decreased, her confidence increased, not because she suddenly became a different person, but because she learned to communicate differently. With her subconscious mind, months later, she delivered presentations that once seemed impossible. The transformation resulted from understanding and using the language of the subconscious mind rather than fighting against it. Experience demonstrates a powerful truth. The subconscious mind is always listening, always learning, and always responding. Those who understand its language gain the ability to influence habits, beliefs, emotions, and behaviors in profound ways. Those who ignore its language often remain trapped in patterns they do not understand. Mastery begins when a person stops speaking to the subconscious mind by accident and starts communicating with it intentionally. The subconscious mind has its own language, and once that language is understood, a new level of personal power becomes available. Next step is learning how repeated thoughts become permanent beliefs and how those beliefs shape every aspect of life. Chapter 3. How thoughts become beliefs and beliefs become reality. Every human being lives in two worlds at the same time. The first is the external world, filled with people, situations, opportunities, challenges, successes, and failures. The second is the internal world, made up of thoughts, beliefs, emotions, expectations, and interpretations. Most people pay far more attention to the external world than the internal one. They focus on what happens around them while rarely examining what is happening within them. Yet the internal world often determines how the external world is experienced. The subconscious mind serves as the bridge between these two worlds. It takes repeated thoughts and gradually transforms them into beliefs. Once beliefs are established, they begin influencing behavior, decisions, attitudes, and perceptions. Eventually, these influences shape results and experiences. This process occurs so naturally that many people never notice it happening. They assume their beliefs simply reflect reality, when in truth, their beliefs often help create the reality they experience. Thought by itself has limited power. Everyone experiences thousands of thoughts every day. Some are useful, some are meaningless, some are positive, and some are negative. Most pass through the mind without leaving a lasting impression. However, a thought that is repeated consistently begins to gain strength. The subconscious mind notices repetition because repetition signals importance. Anything repeated often enough starts moving deeper into subconscious awareness. Imagine walking across a field covered with tall grass. The first time you walk through it, little change occurs. The grass bends briefly and then returns to its original position. If you walk the same path every day, a trail begins to form. Over time, the trail becomes increasingly visible. Eventually, it becomes the easiest route to follow. Thoughts operate in a similar way. Repeated thoughts create mental pathways. The more frequently a pathway is used, the stronger it becomes. Eventually, the pathway becomes automatic. When a thought reaches this level of repetition, it begins transforming into a belief. Beliefs are not merely ideas. They are ideas that have been accepted as truth by the subconscious mind. This distinction is important because beliefs influence behavior much more powerfully than ordinary thoughts. A person may think success is possible, but if they believe failure is inevitable, their actions will often align with the belief rather than the thought. Beliefs operate like internal instructions. They tell the subconscious mind what to expect, what to notice, and how to respond. Someone who believes they are capable approaches challenges differently than someone who believes they are inadequate. Someone who believes opportunities exist notices possibilities that others overlooks. Someone who believes life is full of obstacles tends to focus on limitations rather than solutions. In each case, the belief influences perception before action even begins. One reason beliefs become so powerful is because the subconscious mind seeks consistency. Once a belief is established, the mind naturally looks for evidence that supports it. This process happens automatically. A person who believes they are unlucky tends to remember experiences that confirm their belief, while overlooking experiences that contradict it. A person who believes they are capable tends to notice examples of progress and achievement while viewing setbacks as temporary. The mind filters information according to existing beliefs. This filtering process creates a self-reinforcing cycle. Thoughts become beliefs, influence perception, perception influences behavior, behavior influences results, results reinforce belief. The cycle then repeats. This explains why some individuals remain trapped in negative patterns for years. They are not consciously choosing failure, yet their subconscious beliefs continually guide them toward familiar outcomes. For example, someone who believes they are unworthy of success may procrastinate, avoid opportunities, hesitate during important moments, and quit when challenges arise. These actions produce disappointing results. Disappointing results then appear to prove the original belief. The belief becomes stronger, and the cycle continues. The individual assumes reality is confirming the belief, when in fact the belief has been helping create the reality. This principle works positively as well. A person who believes growth is possible approaches challenges differently. They take action despite uncertainty. They persist through obstacles. They learn from mistakes. These behaviors increase the likelihood of positive outcomes. Positive outcomes reinforce empowering beliefs. The cycle strengthens itself in a beneficial direction. This is why changing beliefs can dramatically alter a person's life. Many people attempt to change results without changing beliefs. They focus exclusively on external circumstances, while ignoring the internal programming producing those circumstances. Imagine a tree producing unhealthy fruit. Year after year, the fruit remains the same. Instead of examining the roots, a person continually paints the fruit, hoping it will improve. Appearance may change temporarily, but the underlying problem remains. Beliefs are like roots. Results are like fruit. Lasting change requires addressing the root rather than merely reacting to the fruit. One challenge is that many beliefs develop so early in life that they feel like facts rather than assumptions. Children absorb information rapidly from parents, teachers, friends, and experiences. A child repeatedly hears messages suggesting they are intelligent. They may develop strong beliefs about their abilities. If a child repeatedly hears criticism or discouragement, they may develop beliefs associated with limitation. These beliefs often remain active long into adulthood. Many adults continue operating according to subconscious conclusions formed decades earlier. They may never question whether those conclusions are accurate. Instead, they build their lives around them. The good news is that beliefs are learned, and anything learned can be relearned. No belief is permanently fixed. The subconscious mind remains adaptable throughout life. However, changing beliefs requires more than wishful thinking. A person cannot simply declare a new belief once and expect instant transformation. Subconscious mind accepts beliefs through evidence, repetition, emotion, and experience. This means new beliefs must be reinforced consistently until they become familiar. At first, a new belief may feel uncomfortable. Someone who has spent years believing they lack confidence may initially struggle to accept the idea that confidence is possible. The new belief conflicts with existing programming. This discomfort is normal. Growth often feels unnatural before it becomes natural. The subconscious mind prefers familiarity, even when familiarity is harmful. This is Why individuals sometimes return to old habits despite genuinely wanting change. The old pattern feels safe because it is known. New pattern feels uncertain because it is unfamiliar. Persistence becomes essential during this stage. Every time a person chooses a new thought pattern, they strengthen a new mental pathway. Every time they take action consistent with a new belief, they provide evidence supporting that belief. The subconscious mind begins accepting the new pattern as normal. Another important truth is that beliefs influence emotions. Someone fun who believes they can overcome difficulties experiences challenges differently from someone who believes challenges are overwhelming. The event may be identical, but the emotional response changes because the belief changes. Emotions then influence decisions. Decisions influence behavior. Behavior influences outcomes. Everything remains connected. This explains why some people appear resilient while others struggle under similar circumstances. Their beliefs shape how they interpret and respond to experiences. Understanding this process creates an important responsibility. If thoughts eventually become beliefs, then mental discipline becomes essential. Every repeated thought acts as a vote for the kind of belief being created. Negative self-talk, repeated daily, gradually becomes subconscious programming. Constructive self-talk, repeated daily, gradually becomes subconscious programming. Fear, repeated daily, becomes stronger. Confidence, repeated daily, becomes stronger. The mind responds to what it encounters most frequently. This does not mean pretending difficulties do not exist. Reality must still be acknowledged. Challenges must still be faced. Problems must still be solved. However, individuals can choose whether they focus primarily on limitations or possibilities. They can choose whether setbacks become permanent conclusions or temporary lessons. They can choose whether mistakes become evidence of failure or opportunities for growth. These choices influence subconscious programming over time. One of the most powerful habits a person can develop is becoming aware of dominant thoughts. Thoughts that occur repeatedly deserve attention because they are potential seeds of future beliefs. If those thoughts support growth, they should be strengthened. If they support limitation, they should be challenged and replaced. Awareness creates choice. Without awareness, old programming continues operating automatically. With awareness, transformation becomes possible. Consider the story of a man named Bilal who dreamed of starting his own business. For years he admired successful entrepreneurs, yet secretly believed he lacked the ability to succeed. Every time he considered pursuing his dream, thoughts of failure filled his mind. He imagined losing money, disappointing his family, and proving his doubts correct. Because these thoughts were repeated constantly, they became beliefs. His belief that he would fail caused him to postpone action again and again. Years passed without progress. Eventually, Bilal attended a seminar on mindset and personal growth. For the first time, he recognized that his greatest obstacle was not a lack of opportunity, but a belief he had accepted without question. He began monitoring his thoughts each day. Whenever thoughts of inevitable failure appeared, he challenged them. He studied successful entrepreneurs, learned new skills, and started taking small actions. Each success, no matter how minor, became evidence supporting a new belief. Gradually, his confidence increased. The belief that success was possible began replacing the belief that failure was certain. His actions changed. His persistence improved. His willingness to learn expanded. Several years later, he built a successful business. The external achievement was significant, but the most important transformation occurred internally. Change began the moment he realized that his thoughts had become beliefs, and his beliefs had been shaping his reality. His story illustrates a principle that applies to every area of life. The beliefs stored within the subconscious mind quietly influence every decision, every action, and every result. Whether a person seeks success, happiness, confidence, health, relationships, or personal growth, the process remains the same. Thoughts repeated become beliefs. Beliefs Repeated become behavior, behavior repeated becomes destiny. Those who understand this principle gain the ability to shape their future intentionally rather than leaving it to chance. The subconscious mind is always building beliefs from the thoughts it receives. The question is whether those beliefs are helping create the life you desire or the life you are trying to escape. The answer determines the direction of everything that follows. CHAPTER 4. Destroying negative programming that controls your life. For a person can fully command the subconscious mind, they must first remove the negative programming that has been controlling their thoughts, emotions, habits, and behaviors for years. Many people attempt to build confidence, success, discipline, and happiness on top of deeply rooted negative beliefs. Yet this approach often leads to frustration because the old programming continues operating beneath the surface. Imagine trying to build a beautiful house on a cracked, unstable foundation. No matter how attractive the structure appears, the weaknesses underneath eventually create problems. The same principle applies to the mind. Lasting transformation requires removing harmful subconscious patterns. Before stronger, empowering patterns can take their place, negative programming does not appear overnight. It develops gradually through repeated experiences, repeated thoughts, repeated emotions, and repeated interpretations of life from childhood onward. People absorb messages from parents, relatives, teachers, friends, media, and society. Some of these messages are helpful, while others create limitations. A child who repeatedly hears that they are not smart enough may begin accepting that statement as truth. A child who constantly receives criticism may develop beliefs that they are never good enough. A child who grows up surrounded by fear may begin viewing the world as dangerous and threatening. These beliefs often become so familiar that they are no longer recognized as beliefs. They feel like reality. Years later, the individual may still be responding to those old messages without realizing it. The subconscious mind stores information based on repetition and emotional intensity. The stronger the emotional experience, the deeper the impression tends to become. This is why painful experiences often leave lasting marks. A single embarrassing moment may create years of self-doubt. A harsh rejection may create fear of future opportunities. A significant failure may create beliefs about personal inadequacy. Event ends, but the subconscious interpretation remains. Over time, these interpretations become part of the person's identity. Instead of saying, "I experienced failure," they begin saying, "I am failure." Instead of saying, "I made a mistake," they begin saying, "I am incapable." Instead of saying, "I faced rejection," they begin saying, "Nobody wants me." Subconscious mind absorbs these conclusions and begins organizing behavior around them. One of the greatest challenges of negative programming is that it often operates invisibly. People see the results, but not the source. They notice procrastination, but fail to recognize the fear behind it. They notice lack of confidence, but fail to recognize the beliefs causing it. They notice repeated disappointments, but fail to recognize the subconscious expectations contributing to them. As a result, they attempt to fix symptoms while leaving the underlying programming untouched. The first step toward destroying negative programming is awareness. A person must become willing to observe their internal world honestly. This means paying attention to recurring thoughts, recurring fears, recurring emotional reactions, and recurring behavioral patterns. Patterns reveal programming. If someone repeatedly doubts themselves before every challenge, there is likely a belief underneath that doubt. If someone repeatedly expects rejection, there is likely a belief underneath that expectation. If someone repeatedly avoids opportunities, there is likely a belief underneath that avoidance. The behavior is often a symptom of deeper programming. Awareness creates an opportunity for change because what becomes visible can be examined. Many people spend years arguing for their limitations. They explain why success is impossible. They explain why confidence cannot be developed. They explain why circumstances prevent growth without Realizing it, they are defending the very programming they need to change. The subconscious mind interprets these explanations as confirmation. Every repeated justification strengthens the existing belief. This is why personal transformation requires questioning old assumptions. A person must ask themselves whether their beliefs are truly facts or merely conclusions. Formed from past experiences, many limiting beliefs collapse when examined honestly. Just because something happened in the past does not mean it must continue happening in the future. Just because a person struggled previously does not mean they are destined to struggle forever. Just because others doubted them does not mean those doubts were accurate. The subconscious mind can only maintain negative programming when it remains unchallenged. Once limiting beliefs are exposed, they begin losing some of their power. Another important step involves changing internal dialogue. The conversations people have with themselves every day significantly influence subconscious programming. Many individuals speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to another human being. They criticize themselves harshly. They magnify mistakes. They focus excessively on weaknesses. They predict failure before taking action. This constant negativity becomes mental conditioning. Subconscious mind absorbs these messages repeatedly and begins accepting them as truth. Changing internal dialogue does not require pretending everything is perfect. Requires replacing destructive communication with constructive communication. Instead of saying, "I always fail," a person can say, "I am learning and improving." Instead of saying, "I cannot do this," they can say, "I am developing the ability to do this." Instead of saying, "I am not good enough," they can say, "I am growing stronger every day." The goal is not deception. The goal is creating thoughts that support growth rather than limitation. Negative programming is also reinforced through emotional habits. Many people unconsciously revisit painful memories repeatedly. They replay old failures, old disappointments, old embarrassments, and old regrets. Each replay strengthens the emotional connection to those experiences. Subconscious mind cannot easily distinguish between a current experience and a vividly remembered one. As a result, the emotional impact continues. This does not mean painful memories should be denied. It means they should no longer be used as evidence for limiting beliefs. A mistake from 10 years ago does not define a person's future. A rejection from the past does not determine future opportunities. A setback does not establish permanent limitations. Meaning assigned to experiences matters more than the experiences themselves. Two people can endure similar hardships and emerge with completely different beliefs. One may conclude that life is hopeless. Other may conclude that they are stronger than they realized. The event is similar, but the interpretation differs. The subconscious mind responds to interpretation. Another powerful way to destroy negative programming is through consistent exposure to empowering information. The mind absorbs what it encounters repeatedly. A person spends most of their time consuming negativity, fear, criticism, and discouragement. Those influences shape subconscious expectations. If they spend time studying growth, success, resilience, and possibility, different expectations begin forming. Mental nutrition is just as important as physical nutrition. The quality of information entering the mind influences the quality of thoughts emerging from it. This is why successful individuals often protect their mental environment carefully. They understand that repeated exposure eventually becomes programming. Action also plays a crucial role in eliminating negative programming. Many limiting beliefs survive because they are never challenged by experience. Someone may believe they cannot speak confidently simply because they rarely attempt it. Someone may believe they cannot lead because they never practice leadership. Someone may believe they cannot succeed because they avoid opportunities that could prove otherwise. Action creates evidence. Evidence weakens limiting beliefs. Every small victory becomes proof that change is possible. The subconscious mind responds strongly to experience. A single successful action may not erase years of negative conditioning, but repeated successful actions gradually build a stronger foundation. Patience is essential during this process. Negative programming often develops over many years, expecting immediate transformation creates unnecessary disappointment. Subconscious mind changes through consistency. Each empowering thought weakens old conditioning. Each positive action challenges old assumptions. Each constructive experience strengthens new beliefs. Progress accumulates over time. One of the most important truths about negative programming is that it does not define identity. Many people mistakenly believe they are their fears. They believe they are their doubts. They believe they are their insecurities. In reality, these are learned patterns, not permanent characteristics. Anything learned can be changed. Anything programmed can be reprogrammed. The subconscious mind is adaptable. It responds to new information, new experiences, and new patterns when they are applied consistently. Freedom begins the moment a person stops identifying with old programming and starts viewing it as something that can be transformed. Consider the story of a woman named Aisha, who spent much of her life believing she was incapable of achieving significant goals. Throughout childhood, she often heard comparisons between herself and others. She was repeatedly told that other people were more talented, more intelligent, and more likely to succeed. Over time, these messages became subconscious beliefs. As an adult, Aisha avoided challenges because she assumed she would fail. Whenever opportunities appeared, she immediately focused on reasons she was not qualified. Her negative programming influenced every major decision. One day she realized that many of her limitations were not objective facts, but beliefs she had inherited from years of repetition. She began writing down her recurring negative thoughts. She noticed how often she criticized herself and predicted failure. Instead of accepting these thoughts automatically, she started questioning them. She replaced destructive statements with constructive alternatives. She began taking small actions that challenged her fears. Each success, however small, became evidence that her old beliefs were inaccurate. The process was gradual. Some days were difficult. Old thoughts occasionally returned, yet she continued moving forward. Months turned into years, and her confidence steadily increased. Eventually, she achieved goals that once seemed impossible. The most important change was not external success. Most important change was the destruction of the negative programming that had controlled her thinking for so long. Once that programming weakened, new possibilities became visible. Her story demonstrates a powerful truth. The greatest prison many people face is not found in circumstances, but in subconscious conditioning. The walls of that prison are built from repeated thoughts, repeated fears, and repeated beliefs. Fortunately, those walls can be dismantled. Every limiting belief challenged weakens the structure. Every courageous action removes another brick. Every empowering thought creates a new foundation. Destroying negative programming is not about becoming someone else. It is about removing the mental barriers, preventing a person from becoming who they were always capable of being. The subconscious mind will obey whatever instructions are repeated with enough consistency. Negative instructions created limitation. Then positive instructions combined with purposeful action can create freedom. The process begins by identifying the old programming, refusing to accept it as permanent, and consciously replacing it with beliefs that support growth, strength, confidence, and success. Only then can true command of the subconscious mind begin. CHAPTER 5 USING visualization to command the subconscious mind. One of the most powerful tools for influencing the subconscious mind is visualization. Throughout history, successful athletes, leaders, entrepreneurs, performers, and achievers have used mental imagery to prepare themselves for success. Long before success became visible in reality, they understood a principle that many people overlook. The subconscious mind responds strongly to vivid mental pictures. Most people think primarily about what they do not want. They imagine failure before an important meeting. They picture embarrassment before speaking in public. They visualize rejection before approaching an opportunity. They mentally rehearse problems long before those problems occur. Without realizing it, they are training their subconscious mind to expect negative outcomes. The subconscious mind absorbs these images and begins preparing the body and behavior to match them. This is why fear often feels so real, even when nothing dangerous is happening in the present moment. The mind creates detailed internal pictures, and the body responds as though those pictures represent reality. Visualization works because the subconscious mind naturally thinks in images. Human beings often remember pictures more easily than words. Long before children fully understand language, they respond to visual experiences. Their minds learn through observation, imagination, and sensory impressions. Even as adults, mental images continue influencing emotions, expectations, and behaviors. Think about what happens when someone imagines biting into a fresh lemon. They can almost see the bright yellow color. They can imagine the smell. They can picture the juice touching their tongue. In many cases, the mouth begins producing saliva, despite the absence of an actual lemon. Body responds to the image. This simple example demonstrates how powerful mental pictures can be. Subconscious mind reacts not only to physical experiences, but also to vividly imagined ones. This principle explains why athletes frequently use visualization before competitions. They mentally rehearse successful performances again and again. They see themselves moving with confidence. They imagine overcoming challenges. They picture achieving desired outcomes. By doing this repeatedly, they create familiarity within the subconscious mind. When the real event arrives, it feels less foreign because it has already been experienced mentally many times. Visualization does not replace action. It enhances action. It prepares the subconscious mind to support performance rather than resist it. Many people misunderstand visualization because they view it as magical thinking. They assume that merely imagining success will automatically produce results. That is not how visualization works. Visualization is not about wishing. It is about conditioning. It is about training the subconscious mind to align with desired goals. When visualization is combined with effort, discipline, learning, and action, it becomes a powerful force for transformation. The subconscious mind responds most strongly when visualization includes emotion. A picture without emotion often produces limited impact. A picture combined with strong emotional involvement leaves a much deeper impression. This is because emotion signals importance. Subconscious mind pays attention to experiences that feel significant. When people visualize success, they should not merely observe it like a distant movie. They should experience it internally. They should imagine the confidence, the gratitude, the excitement, and the satisfaction associated with achieving the goal. The more vivid and emotionally engaging the experience becomes, the stronger its influence on subconscious programming. Another reason visualization is effective is that it influences expectations. People tend to move toward what they expect. Someone who consistently imagines success begins developing a different attitude toward opportunities. They become more willing to act. They become more confident in difficult situations, become more persistent during challenges. The visualization itself does not create the result. The behaviors influenced by the visualization help create the result. The subconscious mind acts as a guide, directing attention toward information that aligns with dominant expectations. Positive outcomes are visualized consistently. The mind becomes more alert to opportunities that support those outcomes. Many individuals have experienced situations where they suddenly notice something that previously escaped attention. Perhaps they begin considering a particular career and start noticing information related to that field everywhere. Perhaps they decide to purchase a specific vehicle and suddenly see that vehicle on roads everywhere. The information was always present, but attention changed. Visualization works similarly. It influences what the mind notices and prioritizes. This Selective attention becomes extremely valuable when pursuing meaningful goals. Unfortunately, many people visualize failure far more often than success before an important event. They create detailed mental pictures of everything going wrong. They imagine mistakes, criticism, disappointment, and defeat. These images generate anxiety. The anxiety influences behavior. The behavior increases the likelihood of poor performance. Outcome then appears to confirm the original fear. A negative cycle develops. Visualization can interrupt this cycle by creating new expectations and emotional patterns. The key is consistency. Single visualization session rarely produces dramatic results. The subconscious mind learns through repetition. Just as repeated thoughts become beliefs, repeated mental images become familiar experiences. Over time, the mind begins accepting those experiences as normal. This is why daily practice is often more effective than occasional intense effort. Even a few minutes of focused visualization performed consistently can gradually reshape subconscious expectations. Visualization becomes especially powerful when used before sleep. This period, the conscious mind becomes less active, and the subconscious mind becomes more receptive. Thoughts and images presented during this time often leave stronger impressions. Many successful individuals spend a few minutes before sleep imagining desired outcomes and reinforcing empowering mental pictures. They intentionally choose what they want their subconscious mind to focus on rather than allowing random worries and fears to dominate. Morning visualization can also be valuable beginning the day with positive mental conditioning. Influences mindset before external distractions appear. It establishes a direction for attention and behavior. The subconscious mind responds to whatever receives repeated focus. Therefore, deliberate focus becomes an important skill. Visualization should always be realistic enough to feel believable while still encouraging growth. If a person attempts to imagine something so far removed from their current self-image that it feels impossible, the subconscious mind may reject it. Progressive visualization often works better. The individual imagines themselves improving steadily, becoming stronger, more confident, more disciplined, and more capable over time. This approach creates a bridge between present circumstances and future possibilities. Another important aspect of visualization involves identity. Many people focus exclusively on outcomes. They imagine wealth, achievements, recognition, or success. While outcomes are important, identity is often more powerful. Instead of merely imagining what they want to have, individuals should imagine who they need to become. A disciplined person produces different results than an undisciplined persona. Confident person behaves differently than an insecure persona. Resilient person responds differently than someone who gives up easily. Visualizing the desired identity helps strengthen behaviors that lead to desired outcomes. Subconscious mind responds strongly to identity-based imagery when individuals repeatedly see themselves as capable, disciplined, focused, and determined. They begin reinforcing those qualities internally. Over time, actions start aligning with the image. This creates a powerful cycle of growth. Visualization also helps reduce fear. Fear often grows from uncertainty and unfamiliarity. The mind becomes anxious when facing situations it perceives as unknown. Mental rehearsal creates familiarity. A situation that has been visualized many times feels less threatening. The subconscious mind interprets it as something already experienced. This familiarity can increase calmness, confidence, and effectiveness. Many performers use visualization for exactly this reason. They mentally walk through every stage of an event before it occurs. By the time the real moment arrives, it feels familiar rather than intimidating. Subconscious mind supports performance because it recognizes the experience. Visualization is not limited to professional success. It can be applied to relationships, health, personal development, emotional growth, and virtually every area of life. A person seeking greater patience can visualize responding calmly to challenges. A person seeking confidence can visualize handling situations with certainty. A person seeking discipline can visualize consistently following through on commitments. Principle remains the same. The subconscious mind learns from repeated mental experience. Consider the story of a young man named Hassan who dreamed of becoming a successful public speaker. Whenever he imagined standing before an audience, he immediately pictured failure. He saw people judging him. He imagined forgetting his words. He visualized embarrassment and rejection. These mental images produced intense anxiety. As a result, he avoided speaking opportunities whenever possible. One day, Hassan learned about visualization and decided to change his approach. Every evening, he spent several minutes imagining himself speaking confidently. He pictured standing tall, maintaining eye contact, and delivering his message clearly. He imagined the audience listening attentively. He felt the satisfaction of communicating effectively. At first, the images felt unnatural because his subconscious mind was accustomed to fear. Yet he continued practicing. He combined visualization with preparation and real-world action. Gradually, his confidence improved. Speaking opportunities felt less threatening. His performance became stronger. Months later, he delivered presentations that once seemed impossible. The transformation did not occur because visualization magically removed all challenges. Occurred because visualization changed his subconscious expectations. Those new expectations influenced his emotions, his behavior, and his willingness to act. His story demonstrates a powerful truth. The subconscious mind follows the pictures it receives repeatedly. If those pictures are filled with fear, limitation, and failure, the mind begins preparing for those outcomes. If those pictures are filled with confidence, growth, and success, the mind begins supporting those outcomes. Visualization is therefore not merely imagination. It is communication. It is a method of speaking directly to the subconscious mind using one of the languages it understands best. Those who master visualization gain the ability to influence beliefs, emotions, habits, and actions from within. They stop allowing fear to direct their imagination and begin using imagination to direct their future. Subconscious mind is always watching the images you create. The question is whether those images are leading you toward the life you desire or away from it. Once visualization becomes intentional, it becomes one of the most effective tools for commanding the subconscious mind and making it work in harmony with your goals. Chapter 6. The Power of Affirmations and Self. Every person carries on a conversation within their mind from the moment they wake up until the moment they fall asleep. This conversation never completely stops. It continues throughout the day, influencing emotions, decisions, habits, confidence, and behavior. Most people are not fully aware of how much power this internal dialogue possesses, yet the words repeatedly spoken inside the mind often become instructions for the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind listens constantly. It pays attention not only to what people say aloud, but also to what they repeatedly tell themselves in private. These internal messages gradually shape beliefs, expectations, and identity. Many people unknowingly spend years programming themselves with negative self-talk. They criticize themselves after mistakes. They doubt themselves before challenges. They predict failure before taking action. They focus on weaknesses while ignoring strengths. Over time, these messages become deeply rooted in the subconscious mind. Individual may not realize it, but they are continuously giving instructions to their own mental programming system. When someone repeatedly says, "I am not good enough," the subconscious mind hears that message again and again. When someone repeatedly says, "I always fail," the subconscious mind records that message. When someone repeatedly says, "Nothing ever works out for me," the subconscious mind absorbs this statement as potential truth. Because repetition influences programming, these messages eventually shape behavior and expectations. The subconscious mind does not carefully analyze every statement for accuracy. Instead, it responds to repeated patterns, This is why self-talk matters so much. Words become thoughts, thoughts become beliefs become actions, actions become results. Process often begins with something as simple as a repeated sentence. Affirmations are powerful because they intentionally direct this process. An affirmation is a statement deliberately chosen to support a desired belief, behavior, or identity, rather than allowing random negative thoughts to dominate the mind. A person consciously introduces messages that encourage growth, confidence, discipline, and success. Affirmations serve as instructions for the subconscious mind. They help replace limiting programming with empowering programming. However, affirmations are often misunderstood. Some people repeat positive statements mechanically without emotion, conviction, or consistency. This happens. Results are usually limited. The subconscious mind responds most strongly when affirmations are repeated regularly and connected to genuine emotional engagement. An affirmation should not feel like meaningless words. It should feel like a direction. It should represent the person an individual is becoming. For example, someone developing confidence may repeat statements related to confidence every day. Someone building discipline may reinforce beliefs associated with consistency and building self-control. Someone pursuing success may strengthen thoughts connected to growth and achievement. The specific words matter, but consistency matters even more. Subconscious mind learns through repetition. A single affirmation repeated once rarely creates lasting change. Repeated affirmations, practiced daily, gradually influence subconscious belief. This process resembles planting seeds. The seed does not become a tree overnight. It requires time, nourishment, and patience. Affirmations work in the same way. Each repetition plants another seed. Each day of practice strengthens the developing belief. Eventually, the new belief begins taking root within the subconscious mind. Many people abandon affirmations too quickly because they expect immediate transformation. When old doubts remain present after a few days, they assume the process is ineffective. What they fail to understand is that years of negative programming cannot always be replaced instantly. Subconscious mind changes through accumulation. Every constructive thought contributes to a larger process. Patience allows that process to unfold. One reason affirmations are effective is because they influence focus. Mind naturally notices information consistent with dominant thoughts. Someone who repeatedly focuses on weakness becomes highly aware of flaws. Someone who repeatedly focuses on possibility becomes more aware of opportunities. Affirmations help direct attention toward supportive information. This shift influences perception and behavior. A person who constantly reinforces confidence begins looking for evidence of confidence. A person who reinforces resilience begins noticing examples of resilience. The subconscious mind starts organizing experiences around the dominant message. Another important function of affirmations involves identity. Many individuals focus entirely on changing outcomes while neglecting the identity producing those outcomes. Yet, lasting transformation usually occurs when identity changes. First, a person who sees themselves as disciplined behaves differently than someone who sees themselves as lazy. A person who sees themselves as capable behaves differently than someone who sees themselves as incapable. Affirmations help shape identity by repeatedly reinforcing desired characteristics. Instead of focusing solely on external achievements, they encourage internal transformation. This internal shift often produces external results. Naturally, self-talk extends beyond formal affirmations. Every spontaneous thought contributes to subconscious conditioning. This means people must become aware of how they speak to themselves throughout the day. Many individuals maintain positive attitudes toward others while treating themselves harshly. They forgive others for mistakes, but refuse to forgive themselves. They encourage friends during difficulties, but criticize themselves relentlessly. Such patterns weaken confidence and reinforce negative programming. Constructive self-talk does not mean ignoring mistakes. Mistakes should be acknowledged and learned from. However, There is a significant difference between learning from an error and attacking personal worth because of it healthy. Self-talk focuses on growth rather than condemnation. It recognizes imperfection while maintaining belief in progress. The subconscious mind responds much more effectively to encouragement than to constant criticism. Consider how a coach helps an athlete improve. A good coach identifies weaknesses, but also reinforces strengths and potential. Continuous criticism rarely produces peak performance. Balanced encouragement combined with correction creates better results. Same principle applies internally. People become more effective when they speak to themselves in ways that promote growth. Affirmations become especially powerful when combined with visualization. When a person repeats empowering statements while simultaneously imagining the desired reality, the subconscious mind receives both verbal and visual messages. This combination strengthens the impression being created. Emotion further amplifies the effect. A statement spoken with conviction influences the subconscious mind more deeply than a statement repeated without feeling. Emotion signals importance. The subconscious mind pays attention to what feels meaningful. This is why passion, belief, gratitude, determination, and excitement can enhance affirmation practice. Another important consideration is realism. Affirmations should stretch the mind without creating overwhelming internal resistance. If a statement feels completely impossible, the subconscious mind may reject it. Gradual affirmations often prove more effective. For example, someone struggling with confidence might focus initially on improvement and growth rather than instantly declaring absolute mastery. The goal is creating a believable pathway toward transformation. As confidence grows stronger, affirmations can evolve accordingly. Affirmations are particularly valuable during periods when the subconscious mind is highly receptive. Morning and evening are often ideal times. In the morning, affirmations help establish mental direction before daily distractions appear. In the evening, affirmations influence the mind before sleep, allowing positive messages to remain active during rest. Consistent practice during these periods gradually strengthens subconscious conditioning. Many successful individuals unknowingly use affirmations through their habitual thinking patterns. They regularly reinforce beliefs associated with persistence, capability, and possibility. Their internal dialogue supports rather than sabotages their goals. As a result, their subconscious minds work in harmony with their ambitions. The opposite occurs when self-talk is dominated by fear, doubt, and limitation. The subconscious mind receives conflicting instructions. The individual desires success consciously, but repeatedly communicates failure subconsciously. This conflict creates resistance. Affirmations help resolve that conflict by aligning conscious intention with subconscious programming. Over time, this alignment increases confidence, focus, and effectiveness. Process is not magical. It is psychological conditioning. The mind becomes what it repeatedly practices. Just as physical exercise strengthens muscles, mental repetition strengthens beliefs. Every affirmation repeated consistently contributes to the development of new internal pathways. Eventually, those pathways become familiar. Familiarity becomes belief. Belief becomes behavior. Behavior becomes reality. Consider the story of a man named Imran who spent years struggling with self-confidence. Whenever opportunities appeared, he immediately doubted himself. He often told himself that other people were more talented, more intelligent, and more capable. These thoughts became automatic. They influenced every major decision he made. As a result, he frequently avoided challenges and missed opportunities. One day, Imran decided to change his internal dialogue. Each morning and evening, he repeated affirmations focused on growth, confidence, and capability. At first, the words felt unfamiliar because his subconscious mind was accustomed to years of negativity. He continued practicing. Whenever negative self-talk appeared during the day, he consciously replaced it with more constructive alternatives. He also combined affirmations with action. He accepted small challenges that previously would have intimidated him. Each Success reinforced the new programming months passed, and gradual changes became noticeable. His confidence increased, his willingness to act improved. His fears lost much of their influence. Eventually, he achieved goals that once seemed beyond his reach. Transformation did not happen because affirmations alone changed reality. It happened because affirmations changed the way he saw himself. That new self-image influenced his behavior. His behavior influenced his results. His results reinforced his new beliefs. The cycle began with words. Story illustrates an essential truth. The subconscious mind is always listening. Every statement repeated becomes part of mental conditioning. Whether those statements create limitation or empowerment depends on what is being repeated. People often underestimate the impact of a single thought because it seems insignificant, yet repeated thoughts become powerful over time. The internal conversations of today become the beliefs of tomorrow. Those beliefs become the realities of the future. Affirmations and constructive self-talk provide a method for directing that process intentionally. Instead of allowing old programming to dominate the mind, individuals can choose new instructions. They can reinforce confidence instead of fear, growth instead of limitation, possibility instead of doubt, strength instead of weakness. The subconscious mind obeys what it hears most consistently. Therefore, the quality of self-talk ultimately influences the quality of life. Words spoken within the mind today are shaping the person that will exist tomorrow. Learning to control those words is one of the most powerful steps toward commanding the subconscious mind and making it obey. Chapter 7. Creating new habits that force the subconscious mind to follow your commands. Many people believe success, confidence, discipline, happiness, and achievement are created by motivation alone. They wait for inspiration before taking action. They hope that one day they will suddenly feel ready to change their lives. Yet motivation is often temporary. It rises and falls like the weather. One day a person feels powerful and determined. The next day they feel tired, distracted, and uncertain. If success depended entirely on motivation, very few people would achieve lasting results. Individuals who consistently transform their lives understand something different. They understand the power of habits. Habits are behaviors repeated so often that they become automatic. Once a habit is established, the subconscious mind begins performing it with little conscious effort. This is why habits are one of the most effective ways to command the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind loves habits because habits conserve energy. Instead of making countless decisions every day, the mind creates automatic patterns. When a behavior is repeated enough times, the subconscious mind accepts it as normal and begins carrying it out automatically. This principle explains why habits can either become a person's greatest ally or their greatest enemy. Positive habits create positive results. Negative habits create negative results. Both operate through the same subconscious mechanism. Consider how many actions occur automatically throughout a normal day. People brush their teeth without needing extensive motivation. They lock doors automatically. They follow familiar routes while driving. They perform countless routines without consciously thinking. Through every step, the subconscious mind has already accepted these behaviors as normal. This is the power of habit. When a positive behavior becomes habitual, it requires far less effort to maintain. The challenge is that many individuals spend years building habits that work against their goals. They develop habits of procrastination, habits of self-doubt, habits of negative thinking, habits of distraction, habits of avoiding discomfort. Eventually, these patterns become so automatic that they feel like part of the person's personality. The individual begins saying things such, "This is just who I am. I have always been this way. I cannot change." Reality, they are describing habits, not permanent identity. The subconscious mind does not distinguish between habits that help and habits that harm. It simply strengthens whatever is repeated consistently. This means every habit currently influencing life, was once a choice repeated enough times to become automatic. The encouraging truth is that new habits can be created using the same process. A person is never trapped by existing programming. They can install new patterns that gradually replace old ones, however. This requires understanding how the subconscious mind forms habits. Every habit begins with repetition. The first action feels conscious. The second action feels slightly easier. 10th action feels more familiar. The 100th action begins feeling automatic. Subconscious mind responds to consistency more than intensity. This is where many people make mistakes. They attempt massive changes all at once. They create ambitious plans requiring enormous effort. They maintain the plan for a few days and then become overwhelmed. When they fail to sustain the behavior, they become discouraged. The subconscious mind interprets the inconsistency as evidence that the behavior is not truly important. Consistent actions often produce better results than dramatic short-lived efforts. A person who reads 10 pages every day will eventually complete many books. A person who exercises regularly for a short period will often outperform someone who exercises intensely but inconsistently. A person who practices positive thinking daily develops stronger mental conditioning than someone who occasionally thinks positively. Consistency trains the subconscious mind. Subconscious mind learns through repeated experience. Another important principle is that habits become stronger when connected to identity. Many individuals focus only on what they want to achieve. They think about losing weight, earning money, developing skills, or reaching goals. Goals are valuable. Habits become easier when connected to the person one intends to become. Instead of focusing solely on achievement, a person begins focusing on identity. They start saying, I am becoming disciplined. I am becoming focused. I am becoming confident. I am becoming consistent. These statements reinforce a new self-image. The subconscious mind gradually accepts the identity and begins supporting behaviors associated with it. When identity changes, behavior often follows naturally. The subconscious mind constantly seeks consistency between beliefs and actions. If someone believes they are disciplined, they become more likely to act in disciplined ways. If someone believes they are resilient, they become more likely to persist through challenges. This is why identity-based habits are so powerful. Subconscious mind also responds strongly to rewards whenever a behavior produces satisfaction. The likelihood of repetition increases. This reward does not need to be large. Even small feelings of accomplishment can strengthen a habit. Many successful individuals celebrate progress rather than waiting for perfection. They recognize that each completed action provides evidence supporting the desired identity. Every small success becomes reinforcement. The subconscious mind notices this reinforcement and becomes more willing to repeat the behavior. Another important aspect of habit formation involves environment. Many people attempt to change behavior without changing surroundings. They rely entirely on willpower, yet the environment strongly influences subconscious actions. The mind responds to cues present in daily life. If distractions are constantly visible, distraction becomes easier if positive reminders are present. Positive behaviors become easier. The subconscious mind reacts to what it encounters repeatedly. This means individuals should design environments that support desired habits. A supportive environment reduces resistance and increases consistency. Habit creation also requires patience. Many people expect new behaviors to feel natural immediately. When discomfort appears, they assume something is wrong. In reality, discomfort often indicates that old programming is being challenged. The subconscious mind prefers familiarity. New habits initially feel unfamiliar because they represent change. This discomfort should not be interpreted as failure. It should be viewed as evidence that transformation is occurring. Every repetition strengthens the new pathway. Every repetition weakens the old pathway. Over time, the balance shifts. What once felt difficult begins feeling normal. This is the moment when the subconscious mind starts carrying the habit. Automatically, persistence becomes easier because less conscious effort is required. One reason habits are so important is that they continue operating even when emotions fluctuate. People do not always feel motivated. They do not always feel confident. They do not always feel inspired. However, well-established habits continue functioning despite temporary emotional changes. This stability creates long-term progress. The subconscious mind becomes a partner rather than an obstacle. Another powerful truth is that habits influence confidence. Many people believe confidence appears before action. Often, the opposite is true. Confidence grows through repeated successful action. Every completed habit becomes evidence. The subconscious mind records that evidence. As evidence accumulates, belief becomes stronger. The individual begins trusting themselves more. Self-trust is one of the most valuable forms of confidence. When people repeatedly keep promises to themselves, the subconscious mind learns that those promises matter. This strengthens personal integrity. The individual develops a reputation with themselves. That reputation influences future behavior. Someone who consistently follows through begins expecting follow-throughs. Someone who consistently quits begins expecting quitting. Habits shape these expectations. Subconscious mind follows the pattern it knows best. This is why even small daily victories matter. Each victory teaches the mind something about identity, capability, and consistency. Over time, these lessons become deeply embedded. The person transforms not through a single dramatic event, but through thousands of repeated actions. Many people search for shortcuts because they underestimate the power of repetition. They want immediate transformation. The subconscious mind does not operate that way. It responds to practice. It responds to consistency. It responds to accumulated evidence. Every repeated action sends a message. The message eventually becomes programming. The programming eventually becomes automatic behavior. This process explains why successful individuals often appear disciplined even when others struggle. Their habits have been practiced long enough to become part of subconscious functioning. What feels difficult for others feels natural for them. The difference is not necessarily talent, it is often conditioning. Subconscious mind obeys what it has practiced repeatedly. Consider the story of a young man named Farhan who struggled with procrastination. For years, he delayed important tasks. Whenever responsibilities appeared, he promised himself he would start later, usually became tomorrow, often became next week. This pattern continued for years. Eventually, procrastination became automatic. The subconscious mind accepted delay as normal behavior. Farhan wanted success, but his habits were working against him. One day, he realized that waiting for motivation was not solving the problem. Decided to focus on habit creation. Instead, rather than setting overwhelming goals, he committed to small daily actions. He worked on important tasks for a short period every day, regardless of how he felt. At first, the process felt uncomfortable. His subconscious mind preferred the familiar habit of postponement, yet he remained consistent. Day after day, he repeated the behavior. Weeks turned into months. Gradually, action became easier. Resistance decreased. His subconscious mind began accepting productivity as normal. Habit strengthened. His confidence improved because he repeatedly kept promises to himself. Results in his life changed significantly. However, the most important change occurred internally. The subconscious mind had been retrained. What once required enormous effort now happened naturally. His story demonstrates a powerful lesson. The subconscious mind follows repetition. Whatever behavior is practiced consistently becomes easier. Whatever behavior is ignored becomes weaker. Habits, therefore, serve as commands repeated through action. Each repetition tells the subconscious mind what is important. Each repetition teaches the mind how to behave. Over time, the subconscious mind obeys these instructions automatically. This is why habits are one of the most effective methods for commanding the subconscious. Mind thoughts influence beliefs, influence. Actions, repeated actions, become habits, habits become character, character shapes destiny. Those who learn to create empowering habits gain control over one of the most powerful forces in human behavior. They stop relying on temporary motivation and begin building automatic systems for success. The subconscious mind becomes trained to support growth rather than resist it. When the subconscious mind begins working with conscious goals instead of against them, extraordinary transformation becomes possible. And the journey of commanding the subconscious mind is ultimately a journey of commanding your life. Every achievement, every habit, every belief, every success, and every failure begins within the mind long before it becomes visible. In the outside world, the subconscious mind is the hidden force that quietly influences decisions, behaviors, emotions, and actions every single day. Most people live without understanding this power. They allow old beliefs, old fears, old experiences, and old programming to direct their lives automatically. They want change, but continue thinking the same thoughts. They desire success, but continue feeding their minds with doubt. They dream of confidence while repeatedly imagining failure as a result. The subconscious mind simply follows the instructions it has been given. The subconscious mind is neither good nor bad. It does not judge whether a belief is helpful or harmful. It accepts what is repeated with enough consistency, emotion, and conviction. Then it begins shaping behavior to match those instructions. This is why understanding the subconscious mind changes everything. The moment a person realizes that their thoughts are becoming beliefs and their beliefs are becoming reality, they gain a new level of responsibility and power. They stop viewing themselves as victims of circumstance and begin recognizing their ability to influence their future from within. Throughout this journey, one truth has remained constant: the subconscious mind obeys repetition. Whatever receives consistent attention becomes stronger. Thoughts repeated become beliefs. Beliefs repeated become expectations. Expectations influence actions. Actions create results. Results reinforce beliefs. The cycle continues until a conscious decision is made to change it. This means transformation begins with awareness. A person must first recognize the patterns operating beneath the surface. They must identify limiting beliefs, negative self-talk, destructive emotional habits, and automatic behaviors that no longer serve them. Awareness shines light on subconscious programming. Once the programming becomes visible, it can be changed. Negative conditioning loses much of its power when it is questioned rather than accepted. Automatically, old fears lose strength when they are challenged. Old limitations begin disappearing when they are replaced with empowering alternatives. The subconscious mind responds to new instructions when those instructions are delivered consistently. Visualization teaches the subconscious mind what success looks like. Affirmations teach the subconscious mind what success sounds like. Habits teach the subconscious mind what success feels like. When all three work together, a powerful transformation begins. The individual starts thinking differently, feeling differently, acting differently, and eventually living differently. One of the greatest lessons in personal growth is understanding that the subconscious mind cannot be changed through occasional effort. Lasting transformation requires consistency, just as a river gradually shapes stone through continuous flow. Repeated thoughts and actions gradually reshape the subconscious mind. Every positive thought matters. Every empowering belief matters. Every courageous action matters. Every disciplined habit matters. Small efforts repeated consistently create extraordinary change over time. Many people underestimate the power of daily improvement because the results are not immediately visible. However, the subconscious mind is always recording, always learning, always adapting. Every repetition leaves an impression. Every impression contributes to future behavior. Person you become tomorrow is being shaped by what you repeatedly think and do today. Another important truth is that commanding the subconscious mind does not mean controlling every circumstance in life. Challenges will still appear, failures will still occur unexpected. Difficulties will still arise. The difference is that a trained subconscious mind responds to those situations differently. Instead of collapsing under pressure, it searches for solutions. Instead of surrendering to fear, it moves forward with courage. Instead of accepting limitation, it looks for growth. External world may remain uncertain, but the internal foundation becomes stronger. This internal strength creates resilience, and resilience is one of the greatest advantages a person can possess. The subconscious mind becomes an ally rather than an obstacle. It begins supporting goals instead of sabotaging them. It begins reinforcing confidence instead of doubt. It begins creating momentum instead of resistance. Individual no longer fights against themselves. Their conscious desires and subconscious programming start moving in the same direction. This alignment produces remarkable results. Success often appears mysterious from the outside. People see achievements and assume they happen suddenly. What they rarely see are the countless thoughts, habits, visualizations, affirmations, and actions that shape the subconscious mind behind those achievements. Every successful person has a mental foundation supporting their behavior. Whether they realize it or not, their subconscious mind is working for them. Same possibility exists for everyone, no matter what happened in the past, no matter what beliefs were inherited, no matter how many mistakes have been made. The subconscious mind can be reconditioned. Old programming can be replaced. New beliefs can be created. New habits can be formed. New possibilities can emerge. The mind remains adaptable throughout life. This means the future does not have to resemble the past. A person is not defined by old fears, not defined by old failures, not defined by old limitations. Those things may have influenced previous chapters of life, but they do not have to determine the chapters that follow. The power to create change begins with a decision. A decision to become conscious of subconscious programming. A decision to stop feeding the mind limitation. A decision to replace fear with faith, doubt with confidence, excuses with action, and passivity with responsibility. The subconscious mind will obey whatever commands are repeated consistently. The question is not whether it is listening. It has always been listening. The question is what instructions it is receiving. Every thought you repeat, every belief you accept, every image you visualize, every word you speak to yourself, every habit you practice becomes part of the message. That message gradually becomes your reality. Therefore, choose your thoughts carefully, choose your beliefs wisely, choose your habits intentionally, choose your internal dialogue deliberately, because the subconscious mind is always listening, always learning, always obeying. When you learn to direct it with purpose, discipline, consistency, and belief, you unlock one of the greatest powers available to any human being. The power to transform yourself from the inside out. And when that transformation occurs, the life you once imagined no longer remains a distant possibility. It begins becoming your reality. The end.